My wife believed her infidelity would remain hidden. I vanished without a trace and revealed a truth so devastating, it left her entire family in shock. My name is Daniel. At 36 years old, I had been married to Emily for nearly 10 years when everything unraveled. If you had asked me before that moment, I would have confidently described our marriage as stable. Like any couple, we faced challenges, but I thought we were solid. Then everything changed in the most unexpected way. I was returning from a work trip, originally scheduled to arrive home on a Friday. But when our meetings concluded ahead of time, I decided to surprise Emily by arriving a day early. I imagined it would be a pleasant gesture. No phone call, just showing up at our doorstep, perhaps suggesting dinner together to celebrate my early return. As I drove home, about 20 miles away, I realized my fuel gauge was dangerously low. The last thing I needed was to be stranded on the highway, so I took the next exit and stopped at a gas station. That's when things took a bizarre turn. While leaving the station, I noticed a car identical to Emily's. Same model, color, even the license plate looked familiar. But it was parked in an area far from her usual routes. My first thought was confusion. What was she doing there? This wasn't near her regular grocery store or any place she frequented. I tried to dismiss it, assuming she had an errand I didn't know about. Yet something felt off. I called her. She answered after a few rings, and I immediately noticed her breathing was uneven, subtle but noticeable. "Hey, I was just about to call you," she said, her voice slightly strained. She claimed she was out running errands, nothing out of the ordinary, but her tone carried an edge I couldn't ignore. I asked where she was, and she paused, just a fraction too long. First red flag. She replied that she was heading to the supermarket near our home. But here's the catch. Her car had been moving in the opposite direction just minutes earlier. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I told her I'd meet her at the store, suggesting we grab dinner afterward. Her hesitation was palpable. "Sure, that sounds great," she finally said, but her voice lacked sincerity. My stomach twisted with suspicion. After hanging up, I watched her car speed past me in the opposite direction, easily hitting 90 miles per hour as she raced to the store to maintain her facade. I took my time, observing as I arrived. There she was, standing outside the supermarket, adjusting her clothes and smoothing her hair in the car's side mirror. She hadn't noticed me yet, so I watched for a moment. It was surreal, like watching someone compose themselves after a secret encounter. When I finally pulled up, she plastered on a smile and acted as if nothing was amiss. She suggested we skip dinner and just pick up groceries to take home, which I agreed to without protest. But my mind was racing. Inside the store, she excused herself to use the restroom. What should have been a quick trip stretched into 15 minutes, with the sink running continuously. No typical bathroom sounds, just the steady rush of water. When she emerged, she claimed, "Sorry, I had to go." But her explanation felt hollow. We finished shopping, bought some pre-made meals, and drove home in silence. That night, I lay awake, replaying every odd moment in my head. The lies, the nervousness, the unexplained detour. It all pointed to something I wasn't ready to admit. Over the next few days, I paid closer attention. Her phone, once rarely in her hand, was now a constant companion. She texted incessantly, locking the screen the second she finished. When I asked who she was messaging, she dismissed it as work or a friend from book club. One evening, while she showered, I checked her phone. But she had been careful. No incriminating texts, no suspicious photos. Either she was innocent or she was hiding things too well. Then came the late nights. Emily's job occasionally required overtime, but suddenly, working late became a frequent excuse. One night, I drove to her office to surprise her, only to find the parking lot empty. Remembering the neighborhood where I'd first seen her car, I headed there. And there it was, parked outside the same house, the same pickup truck in the driveway. My hands clenched the steering wheel as I parked down the street, watching. 30 minutes later, the front door opened. Emily stepped out with a man I later learned was her co-worker, Mark. They laughed like old friends, completely at ease. The sight hit me like a punch to the gut. I took photos, evidence I might need later. Then I drove home, my mind reeling. The next day, I acted normal, observing her closely. She recounted her late night at work, even mentioning ordering pizza with colleagues. The lie was smooth, practiced. Days passed, and I gathered more proof. Each time she claimed to be working late, I drove by that house. Each time her car was there. Finally, I confronted her. One evening, as she walked in with another flimsy excuse, I looked her in the eye and said, "Are you really going to keep lying to me?" She feigned confusion. "What are you talking about?" "I know about Mark," I said, my voice steady. "I've seen you with him, at his house, every time you said you were working late." For a split second, panic flashed across her face. Then she defaulted to denial. "Mark? He's just a friend going through a rough time. I've been helping him." "At his house?" "Late at night?" I scoffed. "You're not fooling anyone." Her demeanor shifted, defensive then tearful. "Okay, fine, I messed up," she admitted, crying. "But it didn't mean anything." "Bullshit," I snapped. "You've been sneaking around for weeks, lying to my face. That means something." She begged for forgiveness, promised to end things, suggested counseling. But the trust was gone. "I'm done," I said coldly. "We're over." She cried harder, pleading, but I walked away. That night I packed a bag and left. The fallout was messy. She bombarded me with calls and texts, apologies, anger, desperation. I blocked her. Then her friends and family reached out, urging me to hear her out. Even her parents tried to guilt me into reconsidering, but I stood firm. I filed for divorce, cut all contact, and focused on rebuilding my life. Months later, she called from an unknown number, insisting we discuss selling the house. I agreed, through lawyers only. Now, I'm moving forward, reconnecting with old hobbies, excelling at work, and embracing the freedom I'd lost. Walking away was painful, but staying would have destroyed me. The divorce papers arrived at Emily's doorstep a week after our last conversation. I made sure everything was handled through my lawyer. No direct contact, no room for manipulation. But Emily, true to form, found ways to make her presence known. One evening, as I was leaving the gym, I spotted her car parked across the street. She stepped out, looking frailer than I remembered, her eyes red-rimmed. "Daniel, please," she called out. "Just 5 minutes." I kept walking. She followed, her voice breaking. "I made a mistake. Don't throw away 10 years because of one mistake." I turned sharply. "One mistake? You lied for months. You looked me in the eye every night and pretended everything was fine. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." She flinched but pressed on. "I ended things with Mark the day you left. I'll do anything to fix this." "It's too late," I said, unlocking my car. "You didn't value us until you lost us." As I drove away, I watched her crumple in my rearview mirror. Part of me ached, the part that had loved her for a decade. But the larger part knew I'd made the right decision. Selling the house became our final battleground. Emily initially refused to sign the papers, hoping to force a meeting. But when the market dipped, she panicked. Her lawyer reached out with a deal. She'd agree to the sale if she kept 60% of the profits. I laughed. Tell her she gets half, like the law states, or we go to court. 2 days later, she folded. The house sold within a month. Walking through those empty rooms for the last time, I felt nothing. No nostalgia, no anger, just relief. A month after the sale, I ran into Jake, an old mutual friend. Over beers, he hesitated before speaking. "Emily's been telling people you were abusive," he admitted. "That you left because you couldn't control her." I nearly choked. "And you believe that?" Jake shook his head. "But others might. She's not doing well." I later learned she'd spun a web of lies. I'd isolated her, monitored her phone, even forced her into the affair. The irony was staggering. I stayed silent at first. But when her smear campaign reached my workplace, I acted. I sent screenshots of her texts where she admitted the affair to key people in our circle. Then I posted a single cryptic status. "When the truth threatens them, liars attack the truth teller." The backlash against Emily was swift. Friends distanced themselves. Her sister publicly called her out. Even Mark, her affair partner, denied her claims in a leaked email. 6 months later, I received a letter, not from Emily, from Mark. "Daniel, I owe you an apology," it began. "Emily told me you were separating. She said you had a girlfriend. I didn't know the truth until after you left. Attached were receipts, hotel bookings, messages planning their liaisons during my work trips. The timeline showed the affair had lasted nearly a year. I didn't respond, but I kept the letter, just in case. Today, I live in a high-rise downtown. I travel for work, now by choice, not obligation. There are dates here and there, but nothing serious. I've learned to trust my instincts again. As for Emily, last I heard, she moved cities, changed jobs. Maybe she's happier, maybe not. But that's no longer my story to tell. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.